I'm trying to champion free market capitalism, and it's not just capitalism, because capitalism without a free market
that's what we kind of have now, isn't it?
Yeah, you just
crony
get close,
capitalism.
Yeah, you get close to fascism.
Right.
So that's not good. We need the emphasis on the free market, and we need something to combat. We need a narrative to combat the social planners, or excuse me, the central planners.
Yeah.
And I think if we can think about free market capitalism, and us all standing up and rebelling against central planning in a way that's nonviolent.
Nonviolent,
of course,
yes,
of course.
nonviolent.
Yeah, but in where we take the high ground, not ethically and intellectually, and we come back with solid arguments that we know have stood the test of time, and we continue to put out content like you're doing, like
you're doing,
and
right?
everyone
And
is
there
telling
are others,
their friends
right?
and their families, and everyone becomes kind of their own version of a rebel capitalist. And that's what I'd like to encourage everyone to do, be cognizant of, and continue to educate yourself, and just be prepared, because if you're not prepared, you're going to be a victim, like I always say.
Exactly. And we talked about a lot of things today that really do not paint a particularly attractive picture to most people. But unfortunately, there will be many that will be caught up in this trap because they believe the lies.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's been a program since really Reagan formalized it in the early 80s. Perception management and financial repression, which, those aren't my words. Those are the IMF words, and it's how they force you to take more risk.
Yeah, I think that the people who are going to survive and thrive in this world of out-of-control central banks and big governments, like I always say, or whatever's coming down the pipeline in the future, are going to be the rebels.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like you,
Yeah.
and everything that you stand for. You're outside of the Overton window. People, they call us conspiracy theorists. They call us, tinfoil hatters. They call us, fear mongers, or whatever you want to call us. The bottom line is, compared to the system, we are true rebels. And I think those are the people that are going to do well in the future. And that's why I'd encourage everyone to hop on board and join us and help us in the cause.
Absolutely. And again, it's not just buying one thing. It's not, gold alone. You can't eat gold.
Yeah.
But you can convert it into food to eat. They did that in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, right.
Right, where they went out and they panned for gold, and that is actually how they were able to support and feed their families.
Yep.
But it really is, food becomes the single biggest issue. It's food, it's water, it's energy, it's security, it's barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. This is what we need to do to be as independent and self-sufficient as we are already walking through the reset.
Yeah, right.
It's just not obvious to everybody because everybody thinks that's just going to be like this one big clap. But frankly, when we see that one big clap, whenever that is, it's too late to do anything about it.
Yeah, I think it's like that Hemingway quote about bankruptcy, where it happens very, very slowly. They try to boil the frog, and then it's just all at once. Because they just chip away at it, chip away at it, chip away at it. Look at what's happening right now with what we'll call it the cerveza sickness, right?
Yeah. I like that term, by the way.
Yeah. But prior to this, you'd have all the guys and the gals, and a lot of them were in the gold community, that would say, the government will never cross this line because before they take my gold, I'll give them my lead.
Right.
The lead
I've
bullet,
heard a lot of people say that.
There's 300 million guns in the United States. Therefore, they can't do X, Y, Z. Or if they cross this line, then I'm going to go to the street with my gun, and they better not do this. They better not do this. And there's a lot of tough talk, and I totally get it. Like, I totally get it because, I'm one of those people that's obviously, rebels against the central planners and the big government and whatnot. But my point is, in 2020, we've gone into this environment where they have literally locked us in our own home.
Exactly. And gotten us to volunteer it.
Not only that, but a lot of people are demanding it.
Yes. It's
a
true.
lot of people on a political side, especially in California,
Yeah.
they're saying they're demanding tyranny be thrust upon them.
Yep.
You see, and so where are all the people that said that they were going to form a militia?
It's a really good
and
question.
go out to the street with their guns and combat this? Because if you're not willing to do it now, where they're locking you in your own house, where they're telling you cannot open your business, you cannot walk out on the beach, you cannot take your dog for a walk, and obviously it's to varying degrees around the country and different countries and whatnot. But you think that you're going to do that if they come in and want to confiscate your gold? It's no chance. So my point there is, if you're not one of those people, or I would never encourage violence, or I'd never suggest people use violence, but use a different tactic, and use that tactic of having a plan B, to where if this comes on, if any type of central planning or lockdown or any type of 1984 nonsense comes into the future, maybe it's 2022, but you've got that exit strategy to where you're not going to play ball and you're just going to unplug from the whole system, and you don't have to worry about your freedom being in jeopardy, really.
And I really love the point that you made about, people say, oh, well, the government would never cross this line, or central bankers would never cross that line. And all those lines have really been obliterated in this pandemic.
You're right.
Right? But that is actually why I personally only buy the collectible gold. Because it is less likely, should they do an over confiscation, which I don't know, maybe they will, maybe they won't. That's not within my control.
Right.
But, when you're looking in the collectible arena, somebody that's paid $8 million for 1 ounce of gold is either writing the rules or likely to have the ability to influence those that write the rules. And, they always say everything is voluntary. Taxes are voluntary. Okay, try not to volunteer.
Yeah, right.
Right? So they make it voluntary. Yeah, if you want to do anything, then you have to volunteer to take the vaccine or whatever they're going to come up with.
Yeah.
I try and think, what if I'm right and what if I'm wrong? And if there's a solution or an answer that it doesn't matter whether or not I'm right or wrong, then that's the one that I'm most comfortable with.
Yeah, as a prudent investor.
Exactly.
Again, it goes, you're an investor, you're not emotionally invested.
Exactly. It's the right tool for the job.
Yeah, you got it. And you know what, too? One thing, I just in closing here, is if people are watching this video, you guys at home, and maybe thinking about what we're saying with this great reset, and you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, and you're thinking to yourself, that will never happen in the United States, it'll never happen here, no chance. Lynette and George are just fear-mongering. I'd really encourage you to think back to 2019, and if you and I were sitting here 1 year ago talking about how there could potentially be the cerveza sickness, and the American government will lock you in your own home and force you to close your business, you would have said there's no way that can happen in the United States. And here we are in 2020, and it happened almost overnight.
Exactly.
So anything can happen. There are no certainties, there are just probabilities. And as rational people, we need to understand the world around us, what the global elite, what their objectives are, what their game plan is, and just weigh the probabilities for ourselves and then take action.
Right. And that, and that's why I think personally having a plan in place and then just executing on this plan. I mean, I've been working on this piece for over 10 years and actually working on the gold piece a lot earlier than that. But I never thought that I would see what we're seeing in our lifetime. I just didn't.
Yeah, but it gives you the peace of mind because you already got the plan in place, and then you don't get emotional about it.
Exactly.
Right? Like if you didn't have execute. That's right. If you didn't have a plan, you'd be freaking out. What do we do? And you'd probably be making bad decisions because you're not thinking clearly. But this is premeditated. All you do is execute. It's like a military operation.
Exactly.
And you sleep well at night.
Yeah, exactly. God, George, I could just keep going on. I could keep going on and on and on, but I know that you have something else that you have to get to. And of course, hopefully we have time for a yummy lunch too.
Yeah.
So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. I hope you got as much out of this discussion as I did. And I'm glad that George is still here in Phoenix, so I get to see him again. And until next time, just really be safe out there. Bye-bye.